Hello everyone, welcome back to Your Thoughts Are Valid and I hope you all are doing great. So in today's video we are going to cover about brain, its parts and its functions. So this video is basically, like it includes very concise notes and not, any of the part or function of that part in detail. So if you are looking for a detailed video, this might be not for you. So, if you have any doubt or if you want me to explain any part of the brain in detail or like the whole chapter, you can comment down. I will make separate videos for that. But for this video, I'm just gonna cover brain in brief. I'm just going to cover the important parts and its functions. It's more like a revision. So let's move on. So basically, brain can be divided into three parts: cerebellum, cerebrum, and brainstem. Okay, so the brain receives information from the senses about conditions both inside and outside it. Okay, like inside में क्या हो गया कि endocrine system, how it's acting, neurotransmitter कैसे release हो रहे हैं या फिर hormones कैसे release हो रहे हैं, and outside it like whatever is happening, like कुछ गर्म छुआ या फिर like बहुत ठंड है, बारिश हो रही है, something like that. So like both inside and outside, जो भी हो रहा है, brain receives that information and process it. So जो brain होता है, it then rapidly analyzes information and sends out message that control body function and action. Basically, like बारिश हो रही है और like हम बाहर हैं, तो we try to find a place जहाँ पे जहाँ पे like shade है जिसके नीचे हम खड़े हो सकते हैं जिससे हम भीगे ना. So all these like body function और action को control करना, ये brain का काम होता है. तो एक न्यूबॉर्न बेबी का जो ब्रेन होता है वो 1 पाउंड से भी कम वेट का होता है, और जब तक एक इंसान 6 साल का होता है ब्रेन कंप्लीटली डेवलप हो चुका होता है, एंड अराउंड 3 पाउंड वो वेट करता है, विच इज अराउंड 1.5 kg. And brain is situated at the upper end of spinal cord, and spinal cord carries message between brain and other parts of the body. Okay, and brain has three main divisions: cerebrum, cerebellum, and brainstem. Then there is a large groove called the longitudinal fissure, which divides cerebrum into halves called left cerebral hemispheres and right cerebral hemisphere. And these hemispheres are connected by bundle of nerves called corpus callosum. So in the figure, you can see there is that longitudinal fissure, and this fissure is basically a bundle of nerve fibers and it is known as corpus callosum. तो इसका फंक्शन क्या होता है कॉर्पस कैलोसम का? ये लेफ्ट और राइट हेमिस्फेयर को कनेक्ट करके रखता है, जिससे कि लाइक जो भी इंफॉर्मेशन है वो दोनों में, जो इंफॉर्मेशन दोनों हेमिस्फेयर्स में जा रही है वो आपस में लाइक दोनों हेमिस्फेयर शेयर कर पाए एंड बेसिकली कोऑर्डिनेट कर पाए साथ में मिलके, so that our body can function, we can function. And it also helps us to combine sensory information from both side of the body, right side and left side, and then movement between the two sides of the body. like जैसे राइट साइड जो होता है ब्रेन का, वो लेफ्ट पार्ट ऑफ बॉडी को लाइक कंट्रोल करता है, और लेफ्ट जो है वो राइट पार्ट को करता है, विच मीन्स लाइक कॉन्ट्रालेटरल होती है ये, जो भी रिलेशन है. देन इट ये जो होता है कॉर्पस कैलोसम, इट enables hemisphere to collaborate on complex cognitive task. And then each hemisphere is divided into four lobes. And what are these lobes? There are four lobes, but it is known as there might be one. I mean, usually we read five lobes. Sorry, usually we read four lobes, but there is one more which is known as insula. But some books just mention four. Mostly books mention four. But yeah, I am here going to mention all the five. So, talking about frontal lobe, you can see frontal lobe. The blue one is frontal lobe, and what is the function? It involves all the functions like abstract thought or explicit memory, mood, motivation, planning, decision making, emotional control, social judgment, voluntary motor control, speech production. Then there is parietal lobe, which is purple in color. It is responsible for taste, somatic sensation, sensory integration, visual processing, spatial perception, language processing, numerical awareness. Then there is occipital lobe, which is for visual awareness and visual processing. Then there is temporal lobe, which is yellow in color. I mean, like it not in real they are of that color. It's just like, to make you understand, the diagram is made in a way so you can understand which part is which. So temporal lobe includes functions like hearing, smell, emotion, learning, language comprehension, memory consolidation, verbal memory, visual and auditory memory. And then there is insula, which is responsible for taste, pain, visceral sensation, consciousness, emotion and empathy, and cardiovascular homeostasis. Okay, then moving on. To the difference between cerebrum and cerebral cortex. So cerebrum is the largest and most highly developed part of brain, and it is divided into two hemispheres, which are further divided into four lobes, and it plays a crucial role in a wide range of complex cognitive and motor functions. Talking about cerebral cortex, it is the outermost layer of the cerebrum and is composed of gray matter that covers internal white matter. White matter is made up of myelin sheath. I mean, basically, it is white due to myelin sheath that wrap around many of nerve fibers and tissues, and it is responsible for information exchange between different areas of brain. Talking about gray matter, it consists of cell bodies, dendrites, and synapses, and that's why it's gray in color because it lacks myelin, and it is responsible for brain information processing. Then again, there's just, like diagram to make you understand how it looks. So outer there is gray matter which has neuron cell bodies from which nerve impulse originate. Then in white matter largely consists of nerve fibers. Its main role is to transmit nerve impulses. Then there is basal ganglia, uh, whose role, like these islands of gray matter, help to coordinate movement. And then there is brain stem, the main motor pathway crossover in the brain stem to the opposite side of the spinal cord. Then moving on to cerebral hemispheres, there is cerebral hemisphere and left cerebral hemisphere. Here are some functions of left and right cerebral hemisphere. Left hemisphere is responsible for logical thinking and analysis, language skills, speech, memory, then reading and writing abilities, mathematical abilities, sequential processing, and it controls right part of the body, while right hemisphere is more about intuition, non-verbal information, and spatial orientation and ability to draw pictures, imagination, and it creates emotions, produce dreams, and controls left part of the body. Then cerebellum. What are the functions of cerebellum? Motor learning, sense of body position, balance and equilibrium, fine movement coordination. Then talking about brain stem. Brain stem consists of midbrain, pons, medulla, and a spinal cord. Not a spinal cord, just midbrain, pons, and medulla. Okay, midbrain, pons, and medulla. Moving on to, like here is like most of the parts of the brain and their functions are given in very short. For like amygdala, just remember amygdala is for emotion. It is linked to emotion, especially emotions like fear, heightened emotions basically. Hippocampus is linked to memory. Okay. Just remember it like, if you see a hippopotamus, then, you are likely to remember that hippopotamus because, it's rare that you see a hippopotamus. So like that, you can remember it. These are just, like tricks so that you can remember it. You can make your own story to just remember, to use any mnemonic to just remember the functions. Then corpus callosum we have already studied. What is the function of thalamus? Thalamus, it's basically relays messages between lower brain center and cerebral cortex, so it acts as relay center. or relay station, and hypothalamus is responsible for for controlling sorry, hypothalamus controls maintenance functions such as eating, helps govern endocrine system, and it is linked to reward and emotion. Pituitary is master endocrine gland. Then reticular formation is responsible for arousal. Please do remember about reticular formation. You are, like more likely to forget this, but many a times it has been asked what is the function of reticular formation, which is arousal. It controls arousal. Then pons help coordinate movement. Even the function of pons and medulla is very important. So pons helps us coordinate movement, and medulla controls heartbeat and breathing. Spinal cord we already know, cerebellum we have studied, and cerebral cortex we have studied again. Moving on, let's just revise all of these again. So cerebrum, it is responsible for sensing, thinking, learning, emotion, consciousness, and voluntary movement. Corpus callosum, bridge of fibers passing information between two cerebral hemispheres. Thalamus, relay center for cortex, handles incoming and outgoing signals. Hypothalamus, responsible for regulating basic biological needs, hunger, thirst, temperature control. Pituitary gland, master gland that regulates other endocrine glands. Hippocampus, part of limbic system involved in learning and memory. Uh, then there is amygdala, which is part of limbic system involved in emotion and aggression. Cerebellum that coordinates muscle movement and balance. Brainstem consists of three parts we have already studied. Then 10th is a spinal cord. It is responsible for transmitting information between brain and rest of body and handle simple reflexes. Reticular formation is group of fibers that carry stimulation related to sleep and arousal through brainstem. Then pons are involved in sleep and arousal. Medulla responsible for regulating largely unconscious functions such as breathing and circulation. Limbic system consists of these four parts: hypothalamus, which is responsible for homeostasis; thalamus, which act as relay station; amygdala, which is for emotion; and hippocampus, which is for memory conversion. Then behaviors to expect with different brain injuries. What happens when there is left hemisphere injury? There can be language deficits like speech, reading, writing, logic deficit, depression, anxiety, etc. Right hemisphere, spatial temporal deficit, visual spatial deficit, lack insight, poor judgment, euphoria, impulsive, etc. Bilateral brain injury, impaired vision, emotional abnormality, confusion, short attention span, memory loss, etc. Brain stem injury, swallowing and speech difficulty, unstable vitals, potential organ failure. Frontal brain injury, personality changes, body scheme deficit, poor problem solving skills. Parietal brain injury, attention deficit and contralateral neglect. Temporal brain injury, agnosia and sorry. Prosopagnosia, then occipital brain injury, vision impairment, cerebellum brain injury, dysmetria, delayed reaction time, ataxia, and tremor. Okay, so these are important, like, these can be asked. So, like agnosia, like you must be aware what agnosia is. It is basically the inability to interpret sensations and basically recognize things. And usually it happens after, like seizures or things like that. There are many other, or maybe after an accident in which brain has got affected. Ataxia basically means without coordination. Okay, so people with ataxia lose muscle control in their arms and legs. Okay, so that is ataxia. And then prosopagnosia is a condition where you struggle to recognize faces, and you cannot interpret facial expressions and cues. Moving on, so this is like a chart where there is location and function given of all the brain regions. So Wernicke area and Broca's area are really important. So location is deep frontal lobe for Broca's area, and it is responsible for speech. Wernicke's area is on the posterior section of superior temporal gyrus in the dominant cerebral hemisphere, and it is responsible for perception and language processing. Like that, like you can refer to this chart to understand thing to basically revise brain. So yeah, that is it. Now there are few questions which we should solve since we have revised. So the dash is to feeling fear as the dash is to feeling pleasure. So the right answer would be amygdala and hypothalamus. Amygdala and hypothalamus, as I told you, amygdala is basically responsible for heightened emotions, that is, fear. And hypothalamus is, more about memories. So it is related to pleasure. Okay, so I hope this is clear. Then moving on to the next question. After a car accident, Rodri had a lot of difficulty planning his day. This is most likely the result of damage to which lobe? So planning is done in frontal lobe. It is a function of frontal lobe. So the answer is frontal lobe. Okay, the answer would be frontal lobe. Then moving on. Um, Just a minute. The part of the brain most closely associated with regulation of hunger, thirst, body temperature is. We studied this. So yes, the answer is hypothalamus. I hope this is clear. Moving on. Which of the following brain structure plays a key role in transferring information from short-term memory to long-term memory? Again, this is a function of hippocampus. Hippocampus is related to memory. So this is hippocampus. Hope this is also clear. Then moving on, bodily sensations such as touch, pressure, and temperature are controlled in which area of the brain? So the right answer here is parietal lobe. There was a slide where we studied about, functions of lobes. So there it was mentioned that it is the function of parietal lobe. Okay. So yes, then moving on, just a minute. Yeah. Paul Broca found that the loss of the ability to speak intelligibly is associated with damage to a region of brain in the so this is left frontal lobe. Okay. Uh, Broca's area is found in left frontal lobe, and talking about Wernicke's area, it is located on left temporal lobe. Okay, so just remember both of these important areas, Broca's and Wernicke's, are on the left side or in the left hemisphere. One is in frontal and one is in temporal. Okay, so I hope this is clear to you. So yeah, that was it for today's video. I hope it was a good revision for those who wanted to revise brain for upcoming exams, like any entrance exam you are going to give for masters or net exam or MPhil exam. So yeah, all the best to those of you who are preparing for exams like that. And thank you so much for watching this video. And if you have any doubt, please do ask in the comment section. Thank you so much.